Are you planning to file for a divorce in Illinois? One wrong move before you file could cost you thousands in assets or crucial evidence for your case. So many people rush to file first and plan later. That's where they go wrong. My name is Jeff Hughes and I'm the lead attorney of Sterling Lawyers. We are a large, exclusively family law firm here in Illinois. We see hundreds of cases and judges every single month, and that gives our clients an unfair advantage. In this video, I'll guide you through 7 critical steps to prepare your Illinois divorce, from meeting residency requirements to securing critical information. And by the end, you'll have a clear roadmap for starting your divorce process on solid legal ground, avoiding costly mistakes. The first step is to understand the residency requirements here in Illinois. The requirement is this: you or your spouse must have been a resident of the state of Illinois for at least 90 days prior to filing. Okay, now that doesn't just mean that you have a mailing address in the state or even that your driver's license has an address here in the state. It means you personally or your spouse must have resided within the state of Illinois prior to filing. Also, as a part of the residency requirements, that is actual legal residency, not just owning property here too. So I'll make sure that's clear to you as well. Okay, the second part of the residency requirement is the county. You need to file in the county in which you have lived or your spouse has lived. Now, you can also do that in where you're employed, and some exception to that. You can do it in the county that you're employed, or where the kids, they need to have resided there at least 6 months. It's different than 90 days, 6 months. So it's double the amount of time. So you can do it where the children have resided as well. All of these requirements for residency, there are exceptions. Just like everything in law, right? There are some exceptions. And these have to do with military service, separation due to employment. So if you feel like you fall into one of those, you can talk with an attorney to see if your particular facts meet the requirement, because you do not. This is important. The residency requirements are the foundation of your divorce, and you do not want to file and then get down the road months or even a year down the road and the court says, wait a second, you didn't meet the initial residency requirements, therefore we're going to throw your case out. You don't want that to happen. That would be a real bad waste of resources and time. It could really set you back pretty significantly from a financial perspective as well. When I say jurisdiction, so that means jurisdiction, that's the legal word for the court having the right to enter orders on your particular divorce and to handle your divorce. So if the court says, I don't have jurisdiction, the judge is saying, I don't have the right. You didn't meet the requirements. So that's what jurisdiction means, and you'll hear that maybe more in this video as I go through it. Okay, so that's the first thing. So the second thing is to know the grounds for your divorce. Now, those are the reasons for your divorce. In Illinois, we have what's called a no-fault divorce state, meaning you don't have to show fault to get a divorce. You have to let the judge know that you want the divorce, that it is irretrievably broken, it can't be repaired. That is enough for the court to grant the divorce. Now, in the old days, and for a few remaining states, you have to show a reason for getting a divorce. And that could be adultery, abuse, abandonment, or something along those lines. But Illinois, we don't require that. You just simply have to say, I want the divorce. It's irretrievably broken. That's what you need to tell the judge. The judge then can grant the divorce. That's the ground. Those are the grounds for divorce. Now, I bring these up and I point these out to you because, well, in so many marriages, in so many situations, one party terribly wrongs the other party in some really painful, deeply penetrating, hurtful, damaging way. And you get to court and you want the judge to know about that because it's bad. It doesn't fit any sort of humanity for what they've done. And so you want the judge to know about that. The judge is going to say, it doesn't matter to me. I can't do anything about that. So if they've cheated on you, if they've committed adultery and they've done something like that, those are not reasons that the judge can use at all to not give or to punish the other party in some way. So I'm telling you all that so you have a proper and full understanding of what no-fault divorce is. Illinois really wants the judges and the courts to focus on future arrangements, not on past hurts. Also, here's another kind of unique thing a little bit to Illinois is that there's no waiting period. You can get a divorce right away. In many states, you're required to wait months. before the divorce can be granted. But in Illinois, that is not the case. If both parties agree that the marriage is irreconcilable, meaning those differences are there and they cannot be reconciled, then there is no mandatory waiting period before the divorce can be finalized. If only one party does, then it's a different situation. For the third step to take before filing for divorce is to gather all of the important financial documents. So right off the bat, I want you to understand something that's very important as you think about the property and the debt related to your marriage. Illinois is an equitable distribution state. This means that the marital property in your marriage will be allocated and divided up according to what the judge believes is fair, but not necessarily equal. Now, you're going to hear that a lot. If you watch TV or you talk to other friends or whatever, the common perception is that everything is equally divided, right down the middle, divided by 50. Not in Illinois. It's an equitable distribution state. So understand that. So this is where it becomes very important to have really good documentation for your assets and your debts. You don't want them disappearing down the road, especially if you want to show that an asset you have was owned prior to marriage or was gifted or inherited in some way, and you want that asset excluded from the marital estate, meaning you don't want the judge to divide that up. That's yours, and you want to keep that. You need to have the documents to prove that and to show that. So the courts in Illinois, by law, can look at a number of factors when determining what a fair distribution of assets is. Now, as you can imagine, fair is differently defined by you than the other party. Fair is defined differently between judges, between everyone. Everyone sees fairness differently, right? Because we all see it through our own biases and our own experiences and so forth. So the law, to give the judges some sort of parameters to work from, the law has issued or told the judges, these are the factors that you can look at when dividing up property fairly. And it's important for you going into a case to understand these factors. The court can look at the length of the marriage, okay? The longer the marriage, the more likely it's going to be closer to 50-50. So understand that. Shorter term marriages, you can prove, well, I had that asset prior to marriage or whatever. Longer term marriages, it becomes more difficult, becomes more muddy, becomes more difficult for the judge to think, well, I'm going to go back 10 or 15 or 30 years. It's just not, that's something the judges tend to shy away from doing. So understand that. They're going to look at each spouse's economic circumstances, earning potential, their jobs, their ability to be re-educated, going back into the marketplace if they've been out of the marketplace for a while or whatever. The judge will look at all that holistically. They're going to look at each spouse's access to property or awarded property, both marital and non-marital. So let's say, hypothetically, let's say one spouse inherited $5 million from their mother or father that passed or something. Okay, well, even though that's inherited and it's excluded from the marital estate, even though the judge says, you know what, I'm not going to count that as a part of the marital estate, I'm going to exclude it and you're going to have access to that because it's yours. The judge could look at that and say, you know, that person has all this money over here. I'm going to kind of shift things a little bit over here and kind of be more fair and divide things up differently. So understand that plays into it. It's not like one for one, not a direct correlation, but it is considered by the judge. The judge can look at all that, okay? So know that part as well. The court can also look at childcare. They can look at who has primary childcare responsibilities. Now you're thinking, how can that really affect property division if that's really affects support more? Well, the judge can actually look at those things, and they can look at if one spouse sacrificed a big portion of their career. Commonly, right, the mother a lot of times does the majority of that sacrificing, and they stay home. They forego the building of their career to raise the children from a day-to-day standpoint. The parties agree to this. And as a result, when the divorce comes, they now have to make up that lost time, and that can be really difficult to do. They weren't able to contribute to the acquisition and the acquiring of assets. So the courts can look at that and say, you know what, I'm going to give them equal credit. That's a pretty fair thing to do if you look at it that way. The courts can look at tax consequences for dividing up assets. Some assets come with capital gains, some assets don't. So the courts can look at those things. Obviously, they've already mentioned the length of marriage, but along with that, for each individual spouse, their age. If there's a big disparity in age, that's considered. The health of both parties. I mentioned their occupation, that could look at that too. And do they have any needs, any special needs? Are there health issues that require particular needs that spouse has that maybe the other spouse doesn't have or something like that? Now let's talk about what documents, right? Jeff, you're telling me I need to gather these documents. Help me understand what to go get, okay? Income records. Get your income records for the last couple years. The more years, the better, okay? What are income records? Pay stubs. Okay, that's obvious, right? Tax returns. Those are always vital. W-2 statements, 1099 statements. If it's 1099, that can be really muddy because now you got expenses that play into it as well. So you may need to pull some expenses together if you are 1099, and particularly if you are, right? If you get 1099s and you get expenses that are offset against your income there, you need to have that as well. Pull together all of your asset information, even for assets, especially if you believe they should be excluded from the marital estate. That would be bank statements, brokerage accounts, retirement accounts, property deeds, vehicle titles, investment accounts, whatever, all that is. Pull all of those statements together. Along with assets, you need to pull all your debt statements together, your credit card statements, your mortgage statements, your loan documents, school loan documents, if you have that. Pull all that together. That's important. You need to have that. Insurance policies, not just like your term policies, but especially if you have any whole life policies, because those are assets. Pull those together as well. Also, you need to understand that in Illinois, every party is required to complete a financial disclosure statement. So you're going to need these documents anyway when you get to court, because you're going to have to turn in a complete summary of all of these documents that you have, as well as your income, your expenses, all that sort of stuff needs to be on there as well. Every party has to do this. The fourth step is to protect your information. Now, just a second ago, I talked about putting documents in a secure location. That's for your physical documents. That's part of protecting them. Addition to that, let me talk about passwords and internet access to things. I have seen so many spouses get hurt because they were not protective of their passwords. They were not secure. And a bad acting spouse got a hold of that information and used that against them, hurt them in some way. A lot of ways that can happen. So I would encourage you to protect all of your passwords, change all of them, even if you think, oh, they don't have access. You never know. Okay, the fifth step, create a projected budget. Now you may say, I don't do budgets. I've never worked off a budget. This is important, not just for your preparation from a financial standpoint, especially when you have to go do your financial disclosure statement anyway, but I think it's real important from a standpoint of your mental adjustment and preparation. It can be really tough to see all of this on paper, okay? Because you may not be aware of what your income is going to look like, especially if you've been out of the workforce and alimony or maintenance is going to be part of your case. You may not know what that's going to be, or you may not know what child support is going to be, but you most of the time have a good picture of what your expenses are going to be. You need to have that mental and emotional preparation for what life may look like during separation and after the divorce. So begin to prepare a realistic and authentic budget for what you're going to need to live off of in the future. Step number 6, prepare your financial accounts. It's very important here. You do not want to do anything that looks like fraud or hiding assets. You want to be above board. You want to be transparent. You want to be able to show a paper trail for everything you're doing, but you want to prepare yourself so whenever you do have the opportunity to transfer assets to you personally from a marital account, you're ready to do that. Finally, step number 7, your divorce here in Illinois. There are 3 big issues that relate to your divorce. Okay, and they are this: support, financial support. And that looks like one of 2 things: alimony or child support. That's one of the big issues. Another big issue, and this is only if you have children. If you don't have children involved, then you have 2 issues, okay? If you have children involved, then there are issues related to decision-making for your children and where they live. Those are 2 big issues. Those are parenting time and allocation of parental responsibilities, okay? That's the second big issue if you have children. The third issue is property and debt division. Now, I encourage you, and I think it would be foolish, it'd be penny wise and pound foolish for you not to book a consult with a reputable, experienced divorce attorney, someone who focuses on divorce. Meet with them and do a strategy session with them. Explain your case, everything that's going on, and get a good understanding of how the court will apply the law to your issues in your case. You do not want to go into divorce without understanding some sense of those things. And also, you can go online and you can research the law. Everyone can do that. but a lawyer will also be able to tell you how the law is applied by specific judges, or more particularly, if it's not, the judge isn't known just yet, you probably won't know that because you don't know who's going to get the case. But at least counties tend to fall within a range of each other. The judges in each particular county, they have their own unwritten rules, things that aren't like showing up online. And for you to understand that going in is really, really helpful, because some counties are more rewarding of some arguments than others, and some counties maybe order more alimony or maintenance than others. So you need to know that going in, depending on what county you live in, where you might be filing, and so forth. A lot of firms have what are called strategy sessions just for this. I know our firm does as Sterling Lawyers. You can certainly reach out to us. I'm happy to serve you. Okay, now I've gone through the 7 steps to take first. And if this video provided value to you, I would encourage you to watch this next video here on the documents needed, more on that, more in depth on the documents needed for divorce before you file. And I'll show you exactly what papers you need and how to secure them. See you over there.